What is up with the squad? It's Cess, your favorite auntie with Uncle Tendencies. Y'all know it's tea time. Coming in the door. Hit the like and the share. They both right there. We are here to have a conversation. I'm just gonna kick it on off. I'm gonna kick it on off. Listen, and I've been saying this: power concedes nothing without demand. Power concedes nothing without demand. Right? This is what we know. Lil, what's going on? What's going on, fam?
Oh, in the house, talking power, always talking power and politics.
Always talking power and politics, okay? The power concedes nothing without demand. That's Frederick Douglass, right? And that truth still hits like a fast break in the fourth. This conversation ain't about trends. It's not about virality. It's not about jersey sales. This is about who benefits when black athletes become the pulse of an entire system while being treated like liabilities instead of leaders. And so I want to, before we even get started, I saw somebody say, be careful about putting Angel Reese and Shedeur Sanders in the same group because Shedeur still has work to do in his craft. Well, here's the reality of it. They both still have work to do in their craft. And this conversation isn't about what their level of professionalism is or how good they are or what their job is. This is not what that conversation is about. This conversation is about power. This conversation is about equity. This conversation is about being treated with respect. This conversation is about knowing your worth. This conversation is about standing on business about who you are and how we should be treated. This is about getting rid of the sharecropping in jerseys type of systems that these young people are playing in. Because whether you think Shedeur Sanders and Angel Reese are good at their craft, they fed families all season. Right? They fed families all season. People couldn't stop talking about them all season. Whether you thought it was rebounds, me bounds, her bounds, your bounds, my bounds, whatever you thought it was, you kept talking about it all season. Shedeur Sanders didn't even start until just a few weeks ago. There wasn't one Monday that they didn't open up NFL conversations about what was going on with Shedeur this weekend, period. Right? This is just the reality of the situation. MJ, what up, though? Hi, life, what's happening? So, when I say this leagues beat stronger off black labor, off black culture, off black fandom, I mean that. But see, the ownership, the protection, and the power, that should get locked behind the gate. That contradiction is not accidental. This is engineered. And this is what we're talking about. Welcome to the Price of the Post, PoliSports Tea Time conversation where we don't just sip the tea. We're going to examine who brewed it, who profits, and who expected to swallow it quietly. Y'all know who I am. Such a favorite auntie with Uncle Tendencies. And this is Cess Talk Sports, B-Wise PoliSports collaboration. We don't separate sports from politics in this conversation. We don't separate culture from economics or fandom from power. We analyze sports as a system, one that can elevate, exploit, or extract, depending on who controls the rules. So this conversation right here, y'all, today is grounded in two names y'all already know. And I just was talking about them. Angel Reese, Shedeur Sanders. Danny Sports Highlights. Cheers, man. What's going on? Listen, not because they're controversial, but because they're catalytic. Okay? They don't just play the game. They move markets. They shift narratives. They activate communities. And every time black athletes generate that level of influence, the system sends a bill. That's the price of the pulse. And I don't never unpack power alone because clarity requires more than one lens. Pulling up with me as my partner in political analysis, cultural critique, and truth teller, political ill. She sees the game behind the game, the policy beneath the playbook, and the economics hidden behind the highlight reel. When we talk labor, valuation, abstraction, and power, she connects the system hopes we never line up. Y'all lean in, lock in, and let me pass the mic as we go straight into segment one. Lil, what's up?
All right, thank you, Auntie Cess, and welcome, family. Appreciate you all pulling up to the room to chat about this. See, what we're doing tonight is not gossip. It's not hot takes. It's not athlete worship. This is political economy discussion. Using sports as a case study. See, Angel Reese and Shedeur Sanders are not anomalies. They are pressure points. They show us how black excellence is welcome when it's profitable, managed when it's influential, and punished when it threatens the hierarchy. Both of these athletes became economic engines the moment they entered their respective spaces. Ratings shift, ticket sales surged, media narratives reorganized. Entire leagues felt new life, especially both of their teams. And yet alongside that visibility came surveillance, narrative control, and strategic limitation. And that's the tension we're examining tonight, the gap between being valuable and being valued. So as we move into our first segment, we'll starting at the foundation, how influence is created, then how it's monitored, how the system responds when it can't control the source of the energy. So let's get into it.
So yeah, let's get into it, because I'm seeing so many different narratives. I'm seeing so many different takes. That I think that the approach that we take is a fresh one, right? I think it's a fresh one here. So we're going to anchor the wave and the watch, because this is the framework for everything that's going to follow. The wave is what happens when an athlete becomes bigger than the box they're put in. Reese and Shedeur Sanders don't just perform, they generate force, right? They pull in new fans, new money, new attention, new cultural relevance. That energy isn't manufactured. That's organic. It's community driven. It's rooted in Black culture and confidence and connection. Leagues benefit from that wave. Media feeds off of it. Brands monetize it. But when there's a wave, Lil, it's always a watch. And the watch is when appreciation turns into surveillance, like you was talking about. When excellence starts getting policed instead of praise. Confidence becomes as attitude. Visibility becomes distraction. Leadership becomes arrogance, right? Performance stops being the metric. Influence becomes the threat. The watch isn't about basketball or football. It's about the control. Reese and Shedeur Sanders sit right at that collision point. Loved by the people, monitored by the system. Their leagues profit off their presence while quietly resisting their power. That contradiction tells the truth. This was never about talent. It's about fear. Fear of what happens when Black athletes stop being stars and start becoming cultural leaders with leverage. Political, help us break this down further. So, I got to get into my questions with you. Why does the system respond with the watch the moment Black athletes like Angel and Shedeur start generating cultural power beyond just a quarter of the field?
The system activates the watch because Black athletes who expand their influence beyond sports challenge established social and cultural hierarchies. So when Angel and Shedeur leverage their visibility to shape culture, command attention, or influence the trends, they thread traditional narratives that are often aimed to contain Black excellence to the field of the court. So the heightened scrutiny and criticism and policing that they face, they become mechanisms designed to monitor, control, or try to diminish that power before it disrupts entrenched systems of authority and privilege.
So can you explain why confidence, especially in these athletes, gets reframed as a threat, while similar behavior in others is celebrated as leadership, passion, tenacity?
Confidence in Black athletes is frequently perceived as aggressive or even intimidating because societal biases link Black self-assuredness with defiance. And while the same traits in white or non-Black athletes are coded as charisma, leadership, or passion, our athletes are faced with this double standard that reflects deep-seated stereotypes that conflate Black excellence with danger, enforcing a narrative box of acceptable behavior. So, in our society, everything since the inception of the country is about controlling anything Black, and that's like part of their DNA. So by reframing confidence as a threat, the system maintains control and it dictates the cultural narratives, and it discourages Black athletes from really fully expressing their agency both on and off the court. They start to overthinking, whether they should say something. I saw Shedeur at a press conference the other day, having to check a reporter, asking them why, you just trying to start something and all this kind of stuff. I mean, you can't even go to a press conference and relax and answer questions about your profession without somebody always trying to pull a sneak attack, to draw you into a way they can make more money, because that's all it is. I mean, you get a little, you say something out of line and a million papers will run it, and it'll be a story for a whole news cycle. You know, it's really just absurd, but it's all rooted to me in fear.
Exactly. And y'all in the chat, y'all let me know. Have you personally noticed the shift from celebration to criticism once Angel Reese and Shedeur became unavoidable in the conversation? And then what changed in the media coverage or even the fan narrative once that wave got too big to ignore? Y'all let me know. Let me know in the chat. I want to step into the part they try to bury under the phrase just business, because this is an opportunity. This is labor extraction. So Angel Reese and Shedeur Sanders they're not just athletes. We know that, right? They're economic engines. And we can tell, I told y'all at the top of this thing, they fed families for a whole season. Both of them fed families for a whole season. It was nothing good going on in Chicago but Angel Reese and the story that she was telling, and the work that Camilla was doing. There wasn't much going on good there. Their presence drives the ticket sales, ratings spike, merch moves, sponsor circle, culture shifts. Shedeur Sanders, I think I don't even remember the dollar amount of jersey sales that he's at now.
250 million.
Yeah,
when he first hit the league, and no telling what it is now.
That's what I'm saying. I don't even know where the number is right now. And that kind of impact doesn't happen by luck. That's that's labor. Even when they rename it talent or marketability, here's the extraction. The value flowed up, not out. Institutions capture that long-term wealth, the brand growth, the franchise valuation, the broadcast leverage. The athlete gets some visibility, some conditional endorsements, them short-term crumbs, though. Angel revitalized the WNBA economy, yet her dominance got minimized. Shedeur fuels entire football narratives, yet his valuation and development get quietly capped. That's not misalignment, that's policy. And the political truth is this. Institutions love the black production, fear the black power. They want the wave without redistribution. That attention without the control shifting. And they want they want to extract the labor and package the influence and limit the upside, have a profitable asset and not empower the stakeholder. And this is where we got to be able to draw the line. That's the design, and this is what we're naming. So Leo, explain the difference between visibility and valuation, because I think we need to understand that before we go any further in the conversation, and why the system is comfortable giving out one but resist the other.
Visibility is the system's willingness to showcase black athletes because it benefits from their marketability, their fan engagement, and the culture influence. But this is surface level exposure. The valuation, on the other hand requires recognizing and rewarding their full wealth through fair pay, decision-making power, and long-term influence. So the system resists valuation because it will shift power dynamics, acknowledge black agency, and then challenge economic and cultural hierarchies. Essentially, black athletes can be seen and celebrated publicly, but the system wants to control how much their presence translates into tangible power or systemic change.
How do we recognize labor extraction in sports when it's dressed up as opportunity, exposure, or brand building versus for these athletes? For black athletes.
Yeah, labor extraction in sports, they often disguise that as opportunity when black athletes are asked to, generate immense value through performance, social influence, or brand promotion. But that's without receiving proportional compensation or ownership. In other words, they want your display, but then they want your check to be short at the same time. So the narrative of exposure or brand building is really done to mass exploitation by framing unpaid and underpaid labor as beneficial experiences, because you at no time are you supposed to work where someone is earning profits for free. And I believe it's the 14th Amendment that prohibits you working without being paid at any time. So, but they'll still put you in some free things, and you don't want to call it part of your little marketing, your little your initial contract, but they still extracting some benefit from it. So recognizing it requires critically assessing who profits most from that athlete's work or visibility, and whether the structures in place allow these athletes true economic and cultural leverage, rather than merely, benefiting just the institutions, sponsors, and broader systems at their expense. And one good example is how Shedeur Sanders generated that income, and that income, he got what, 6%? I think it was 15 million or something like that. But that income was distributed throughout the league. So I'm giving everybody extra, 10 or 12 million or whatever the split was for all the teams. You got one person who you are holding back, who you disrespected, who you drafted, 142 places, less than what he should have been drafted. Yet you exploiting value out of him and getting paid profits. This is just grossly unfair.
I'm gonna have to take a side step from this right here. See, here's the thing, and this is why I said this ain't about their basketball talent. But for you to even enter the chat and say that she's not worth the money she's paid, and your girl high school team plays better, what does that matter? What is your point? This is a pro basketball player. This is a woman who's already breaking records. What does your high school basketball team have to do with what we talking about? Angel Reese is a hooper. You could not like her. You could not like her style. You could not like where she tends to focus her skill set. But to come in and disrespect her and say she's not worth the money she's paid when she's broken. Her name is in the conversation with some of the best to ever do it. That's the ridiculousness of the whole statement. You don't have to tear her. If you like your high school basketball team, that's fine. Keep going to seeing them on Tuesdays and Thursdays or whenever they play. You didn't have to come here and tell us anything about your basketball team. But it's disingenuous for you to jump in a conversation and be like, she's not worth the money that she's paid. This is somebody who has proven herself as a basketball player, as a brand, as a brand builder. I think what they said Angel's worth $9 million right now. That's what I think the last post I seen said she was at like 9 million. Like that's the ridiculous of it. Okay, Yolanda, NIL used as a distraction. Let's give the athletes all this money, but behind closed doors, profit more. Yeah, and it's not even all this money. You know what I mean? It's some money. And a lot of times the NIL package number gets out, and it's more like a compensation package than it is like $1 million hitting your cash app. It's more like you got some cash and a car and some airline tickets and some, a house, right? Because your family gonna go back and forth to be able to see the games. They're gonna cover those costs. They're gonna cover a place for you to live. They're gonna cover the new car that you get, the stipend that you get. So all of that. What's going on, Jackie? So it's a compensation package that goes into that. But let's name the pattern with some soft language, right? Without soft language, I should say, because I don't got time for the soft language. So Black athletes' dominance at the college level often triggers punishment at the professional level, right? Not because they aren't ready, but because they're too influential. Shedeur Sanders entered the draft as a proven leader, commanding, market moving, culturally powerful. And instead of that translating into opportunity, it translated into suspicion. Confidence got recoded as arrogance. Background got reframed as risk. Now, how is he risky? This is a two-time. This is a second generation pro. This is a kid you saw grow up around the NFL. This is a kid that knows the ins and outs. But okay, some kind of way he got a shaky background. I don't get it. But success became something the system felt obligated to correct. And Angel Reese runs the same script. She helped revive WNBA visibility. Believe it or not, that's the fact. She came here with more of a fan base and more followers than the WNBA had at the time. Revenue climb, attention surge. Accolades don't match the impact. Equity don't match the impact. Awards get withheld, narratives get shifted, and the message stays consistent. You can generate the value, just don't expect the validation. If your power feels uncontainable, that's not coincidence, right? That's the enforcement part. And I see you saying, Green Thumb saying NIL is meant to aid student athletes. The problem is no one knew that Black athletes would benefit as the highest earners. Well, yeah, yeah, okay. See, Green Thumb, now you going? We got that's another conversation right there. It was like, oh dang, it was almost like the NIL hitting. It was like, oh shit, they got some money too. Wait a minute, roll this thing back. We didn't know it. We didn't know they was gonna give them some money.
Right.
But politically, why does Black success at the college level often trigger this institutional resistance instead of professional investment?
You know what? Black athletes dominate in college, and so that challenges these entrenched hierarchies, and it's making institutions weary of ceding power and influence. So instead of being rewarded with professional support, their success is often policed or minimized to maintain control and prevent disrupting the existing system. But these two people she grew LSU, put them back on the limelight, and he put Colorado back on the map when they had been dead for decades. Yet they get to the pros and have that same ability to elevate the visibility of both the teams in the league they in. Yet, people want to punish them and hammer them. It's just, for what? They didn't come to take over. They just want to play. That's what I don't get. They act like they coming for the commissioner's seat, and that's not the deal at all. They're just coming in here to have a professional career like everybody else, but they get treated as if they are a problem that needs more erasure than it does, professional development and assistance.
I think what bothers me the most is that people don't even demand the receipts on the stuff that they say about the kids, right? Mm-hmm. So if you tell me that Angel's not hardworking, then show me when she got her feet kicked up. I seen her maximize her 24 hours. She went to the Met Gala, went to work, stopped by home. You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to give me some receipts back on this stuff. You can't. I continue to ask y'all, what is the worst thing that you can tell me Angel did? Okay, so she did ring me. She waved in that girl's face. Okay. So what? It happened on a basketball court. It was in the game of basketball. Tell me something outside of the court. You don't like the way she talked? Okay. Trash talk ain't for everybody. I'm here for it. Tell me what Shedeur did. He put his hand up on T. Oh, okay. He said, "What? My time. Look out! It's our time." Those are the worst things that you can say about them, but you continue to tear them down. These are the very people that you should be pushing. These are the very people this is the very work ethic. This is the very approach. This is the very mindset that you want to be able to push out as a blueprint, that you want to be able to push out as a mentor, that you want, and maybe you don't want, maybe Angel's a little bit too unapologetically herself for y'all. But at the same time, what you have to respect is that she's empowered to do that and she stepped into it. Right. Mm-hmm. And so what we're supporting is the choice and opportunity to be able to be who you are. Everybody else gets to be who they are. I don't understand. These two people is getting punished and they ain't doing nothing but working hard. Shedeur was like, anybody want to play catch? Anybody, just anybody, the yard crew, anybody, somebody catch this damn ball. I'm trying to be better. Not that I'm trying to cheat. I'm not trying to cheat my sport. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to work out. I'm not trying to add to my craft. Every time I see Angel, she's back in the lab. She's shooting some jumpers. She's trying to see how she can get better. She's seeking some people out. So and she's seeking out subject matter experts. How can I get better? Critique me, coach me harder, tell me this, tell me that, right? All of these things going on. Okay. Yeah, confident, unapologetic in a time when the political environment openly supports discrimination. I think that's what you're saying. But okay, and that's definitely true, and that's definitely a conversation that we can have. But there's also a conversation that we can have around how we support, push back, and fight these narratives, right? Because yeah, that's an entirely different conversation there. But I want to Lil, can you break down how personality, confidence, and leadership get weaponized as red flags once these athletes enter these pro spaces, and then we can talk about how we can better support them in these pro spaces.
These are simply traits that are celebrated in others. Confident, assertiveness, what the hierarchy does, the power structure often recasts those in Black people as dangerous or disruptive in our athletes, and it really go all the way back to the plantation, and that's just the truth. I know it was 400 plus years ago, and blah blah, and ain't no get over. Because if you keep bringing shit from the past, we don't have a chance to get over. And this weaponization serves to limit their influence, enforce conformity, and signal to the system that their power must be contained. Why must their power be contained? What is in the risk of symbolizing, hey, my time to recognize, and so what she waved, symbolizing the system don't see me, but I bet now that I'm a champion, you see me now. And that's pretty much all it was. So, it's just our society is just so, I don't know any society, I don't think on the globe, more focused on controlling Black people as the West. And that includes Europe and the United States. It's just something in their DNA. They act like they're not going to be able to eat another meal if they can't control a Black person doing something. It's really just absurd, but it is what it is.
And I think it's become such the way, and I can't say the way of the world, the way of this nation, that it's just expected and accepted. It's almost unrecognizable at times, or like, what you doing calling that out? That's how it is, and it doesn't have to be like that. But let's be clear, because this ain't chaos. This choreography. When Black athletes gain too much influence, institutions, they don't panic. They get their playbook out. And move one is downplay the performance, spotlight the personality. Dominance turns into drama. Dominance turns into drama. Confidence gets relabeled with the attitude, and then leadership is an ego. Oh, they got an attitude problem. Look at them. Ooh, all about them. It's not that. The focus shifts on purpose, away from stats, away from the results, towards tone, behavior, likability. That reframing creates the cover, and that cover is to limit the opportunity and to justify control. Second move is the visibility without power. The cameras stay on, the marketing ramp up, the jerseys fly off the shelves, but the decision making, that's locked out. Leadership roles stay gated. Long-term investment stays off the table. The athlete becomes a brand asset and not a stakeholder. And that's what we got to steer our young athletes away from. Don't become the stakeholder, don't become the brand asset, become the stakeholder. Profit flows upward. Control stays centralized in these type of situations, and the goal is simple: it's containment. So not to stop talent, but to stop power from turning into leverage. So, Lil, why is narrative control such a powerful sabotage tool once institutions feel threatened by athlete, or even entertainers' influence, when they threaten my influence?
And actually, if you think about it, it's all across the board. You see it in other high visibility avenues, like, even in entertainment, and especially in politics. Narrative control, that allows these institutions to shape the public perception. It's all about brainwashing an unaware public. So they do this to diminish the athlete's credibility and try to reframe their power as a problem rather than an achievement. And it's an effective way to limit influence without directly addressing the structural shift that the athlete presents. So it's always a switch and bait. Yeah, it's okay if you turn the switch on and the money start flowing in, but the minute you say, "Can I sit in that chair?" That's a problem. It ain't enough chairs, because they'll remove the chair. So they don't want you to have no power. I mean, it goes back to the same model of labor extraction. That's the biggest problem in this country. You still have labor extraction going on. I don't care how many amendments they don't put out there. They sit in these rooms or in these telephone booths and figure out ways to just extract. Like it, like it's a just addiction. I mean, it's really at a high level, and it's really ridiculous. But that's what it comes down to. They gotta control every aspect of your life, like they did on the plantation. On the plantation, they controlled every aspect of your life. When you went to the bathroom, when you was able to take a shower, work. When you slept, when you wake up, this, that, and that. Same way they do in prison. But these arenas and these courts are supposed to be places where you are working to earn a wage. But they still, I don't know. They don't do it to all athletes. Black athlete is just a fallout. I just, they just addicted to controlling anything and then determining what is achieved and how much. I don't know if they think, if you have some influence, what you gonna do? Open somebody's mind? Probably so. But the real fear is down the line. Others looking at you, just like they used to whip you on the plantation to control you. It's the same thing here. They just whipping you in public to make sure that everybody coming behind you. You got black kids right now running back to college. Don't even want to come in the pros. They done seen Shedeur get treated so badly. They scared to even go run up in the draft. And if they got any college eligibility, they getting back. Getting back into the college scene and trying to stay there. That's absolutely absurd for an institution like the NFL to try to instill that kind of fear, but that's why they publicly humiliate and try to shame him. That's not just for him. That's for everybody coming behind him. Because they don't want you to influence others to know that they can work hard and achieve something or get to a certain level, and that's what's happening to these athletes.
So, do you think it's a Chicago Sky Cleveland Browns issue, or is it a NFL WNBA issue?
I you know what? It's really a kind of combination of both. And here's how I explain it. You want to have successful teams in your league, and this is why. Those teams pay fees to these headquarters at the WNBA and the NFL. They pay merchandise percentages. They pay part media right. They pay partly ticket sales. So these, like the NFL and the WNBA, they're like a franchisor. And the teams are like, some little franchise McDonald's out there. But and so even though they centralize the some of the media deals, the licensing deals and stuff like that, you still, they expect a little paycheck. So when your program is raggedy and you ain't making no money, it's going to be a problem. So if they have to conspire to try to keep attention on you, because they control where you go through the draft. And people be talking about, they have a lottery. You ain't never seen the lottery. Lottery, they always coming out the back room telling you who won. Why we can't see the little balls bounce? That's because they want to be able to control where certain assets go. And they call them labor assets. So they put you here, like they didn't put LeBron in Cleveland for decoration, and they didn't put Rose in Chicago for decoration either. These things, to a certain extent, are not luck. They're manipulated. And so, it is designed to make money. And this is why they do that.
Great points. So, and I think this is a good place for us to talk economics. Not salary sheets and not the contracts, the community economics. Because black men are the backbone of modern sports revenue, right? The most loyal, most engaged, most profitable. When Angel Reese and Shedeur move, our money move with them. Seats get filled, merch move fast, ratings spike, the algorithm light up. But that money doesn't stay where it's generated. It gets extracted and elevated. So NIL didn't break that cycle. It softened it. Endorsements provide access, but there's no authority that comes with the endorsement unless you negotiate that into your deal. Exposure provides income, but it doesn't build an infrastructure that allows you to have your own platform, this platform that you controlling the narrative on. The system mastered a dangerous balance. Pay the athlete just enough while blocking the formation of real economic power. And so what looks like progress is actually containment. And what feels like support is structured extraction. Black culture creates the value. Black fandom supplies the capital. And then institutions secure the ownership. That's not coincidence. Again, that's design. So why does the system allow endorsement money but resist ownership, equity, or revenue sharing tied to black athletes? How does that impact? Why does that impact?
In endorsements, they let institutions profit from black athletes. and marketability, without giving them really lasting control of wealth. And that's why they separate these deals, and they'll give you, oh, you got a big time ambassador deal. Yeah, but I ain't got no ownership in the ambassador deal. They'll say, well, we'll sponsor your little court over here. Well, that ain't the money I need to hire staff in order to run that court. So ownership and equity, it threatens the established power and profit structures. So the system, they limit access to these avenues to maintain control over who really benefits from the athlete's influence. Think about sports. Sports is a $250 billion industry, top to bottom. And even youth sports are worth over between 30 and 40 billion. I ain't talking about no million, billion for the little kids with all the fees and all the stuff they do there. But they don't want you to have no real community impact. They ain't gonna give you an ambassador deal that allow you to build housing, a wing at a hospital, build a real school that you control, or this, that, and the other. So it's all to it's just the whole society. But it's just, they want to funnel the money everywhere else. Think how many white people would be starving or not living them good life if they wasn't agents, trainers, working on the water boys on the side, working all the jobs at the stadium, got all the executives. Those would be people without jobs, and what they doing, you paying an agent 2-3% of your business. So you making, you making millions of dollars. He able to feed his family, take care of his wife, bring his kids to the game. They sitting down on the front row. But that's not happening for people back in the community. The community you come from, they come to the game, it's rafter, nosebleed section. They ain't gonna be down there on the floor, enjoying seeing, girl, that was my neighbor daughter playing. None of that's going on for us. So once again, they taking the cream of the crop. It's just a wealth extraction. And they don't allow corporations, like these corporations, they working with the league and this, that, and the other. They're not going to set up deals to, really benefit the community, make part of the deal an investment, stuff like that. So who's benefiting from the athletes' influence is not the Black community or the community they come from. It's a whole nother community that benefits off our genius, our brilliance, and our God-given athletic talents. And it is what it is. These are time-sensitive things, and you in the league 4 or 5 years. Next thing you know, you're out the door.
Well, and not only and it's not that you just out the door, right? You out the door, but there's no continued career path that allows you to continue to grow with the league as it's growing, right? So when you think about, okay, now I'm out the league, how do I get into being an agent? You see some people doing the sports casting on the side, but how do I become an agent? How do I do some of the executive roles in the league? What are the career paths, and what are those marks that I got to hit to be able to take advantage of those opportunities and making those opportunities really, really available? But the cost that nobody really puts on the balance sheet when athletes like Angel Reese and Shedeur Sanders become famous without power, the community gets motivation, but loses the material return, right? This is what we're talking about. So the visibility creates these heroes. Ownership creates systems. But without the equity, success can't be really converted into infrastructure. So it's no training hubs. There's no youth pipelines. You see them out there trying to create them on their own. You see Angel going into the communities. You see Shedeur in the communities working with the youth, trying to give them experiences that, like he said, he wished he would have had as a kid, coming up to have his football heroes and basketball, sheroes and everybody coming back into the community and putting the arm out and being able, just touch these people and see that they real. So there's no youth pipelines, no community funds, no institutions built to really outlive that moment. We're in the moment type of culture. That's how they handle us, in the moment. It's popping right now. It's lit. But what in the hell do we do when it's not lit no more, right? And that's the influence moves, the wealth doesn't. And that's not accidental. That's the containment. The system allows Black success as long as it stays individual and not scalable, right? So the athlete becomes a moment, not a mechanism. It's a symbol, not a builder. Remember that time when such and such did this? Instead of, we turned that into being able to lay a foundation for 5 to 10 other people to come behind them and to be able to accomplish that or even greater. Because we didn't do that. It was in the moment. They keep us in the moment. And so and symbols inspire, but they don't change the neighborhood, and they don't rewrite the futures. So my question for you now, Lil, is why does the system work so hard to isolate that Black success instead of letting it scale into community power?
You know what, the real reason the system isolates Black success is to prevent it from disrupting existing power structure. So when individual achievements are allowed to scale, into collective influences, they can shift economic and cultural power towards these communities. They don't want that to happen. So by containing success, institutions protect themselves from accountability, and they limit opportunities for Black communities to build generational wealth, influence local systems, or challenge inequities that the athlete's success could expose. I mean, if you think about it, if our athletes collectively in all sports could be investing in our communities, providing jobs, creating industries where they can provide jobs, they could build housing. This is just how much collective money they have. But what they do is they emphasize what's happening with one individual at a time. It's like it can only be one super money maker in a space, and then if you try to get with somebody, let's get together and build a 325 unit affordable housing, here they come with a scandal, or here they come with, just some other nonsense. Or you do like Magic Johnson did, you get to the meeting and they talking about ain't no urban area worth investing in stuff. I mean, just, really craziness. We as a people, our people, we got to find some kind of way to get these athletes understanding that you do owe the community. How about you don't owe the community? You do owe the community. You owe it to yourself to make others successful. That's the beauty of servitude. You're here to serve the people, not serve yourself. Your greatest gift is community service and what you can do to serve others and bring others along. So now the power system don't want that. They can't. They wasn't thinking about Blacks in sports in Jackie Robinson days, until they came down there and was counting all them heads coming to see, Black athletes. Oh, we could double up our money because, we got the white people over here. We ain't filling up the stadium. Then we can use the, it's always about using us to build and then not allowing us to, scale or do anything to help our own people. Just like, think about it, Cess. Football, NFL, they don't want to talk to people that got got a mother and father in the household. They want to go after that single Black woman who got that son that they could pull out and control because they know there's no male presence there that's going to control his energy. That gives them a chance to maximize, pimping the person. They're not trying to, they don't want a situation where God forbid the father want to be the manager. Look how they tortured the quarterback for the Ravens just because he had his mother as the manager working the deal on his new contract.
Negotiating the contract. Yeah.
I mean, they had a fit. He was crucified. You need to get an agent. You need to get a white boy, so he can make that $7 million your mother made. It's just crazy. It's just crazy out here.
So can you explain how the repeated cycles of visible success without ownership create this long-term economic trauma in the Black community? Because I think that's where you headed. It's a repeated process of just this talent being excavated almost out of these communities with no return coming back.
When Black athletes generate enormous culture and financial value without ownership, the benefits flow outward to the institution and the corporations instead of back to their community. And so this cycle concentrates wealth elsewhere. That's the whole key thing. And while community systems miss out on generational capital, over time, it's just repeated extraction, and it perpetuates economic disparities, limits local investment, and reinforces systemic inequality. And even as Black talent continues to drive the culture and financial growth of these leagues and other, college institutions and these professional leagues, it's just, I mean, you got a institution huge. LSU is a huge institution. But the Black community around LSU, with all that Black talent that they have exploited over the years, nothing but poverty surrounding it, and that's the way they want it, and so it's time for us to recognize these things, and you can only do it through mass education, teaching these young men and young women, what their obligations are as far as coming back and building their communities and stuff like that. Because most Black athletes, you get a white agent, you'll be out there building a court in $10 ain't got nothing to do with your community. They're not going to ever advise you to go back to your community and build an ice cream stand, let alone, put it in some real bank investment. And you think about it, even within the community, they don't advise these athletes to put their money in the community banks, so that they have the communities can leverage them to borrow and stuff. The most you might get, build a little girls and boys club, which you putting your name on. You ain't there running nothing, and neither is your family. I mean, it's just absurd the amount of dollars that have been extracted out of our communities, and that it just, we in 2025, it should be stopped by now.
Oh yeah, community is definitely the move. What's up, B Will? Hey, you're right, Lil. It's time to take a different approach. And I had a question to the chat. When you think about your favorite Black athlete, do you see community institutions being built or just individual success stories? So let's bring this back to the people, because fans, we're not powerless. We've been aimed wrong. See, Black fandom has been conditioned to invest emotionally and financially in institutions that never redistribute the power back to the athletes or the community. We call it loyalty. Ownership calls that leverage. So showing up, getting the merch, defending the franchise, that's not resistance. That's consumption dressed up as commitment. So real fan power starts with redirection. Support the person, not the logo. Follow the athlete, not the franchise narrative. When attention, the money, the voices move with intention, the pressure builds. See, that's how you get the algorithm to shift. Brands adjust, institutions respond. See, fans don't just amplify culture, we got to apply force. So, Lil, what is the most immediate way fans can shift from passive support to real economic and narrative leverage for athletes like Angel and Shedeur?
When fans, they gain leverage by, consciously directing attention, engagement, and spending towards the athletes themselves, supporting their brands, initiatives, and ventures while calling out biased media narratives and demanding fair recognition. And so this turns passive admiration into a collective influence, helping the athlete capture both a culture and economic power rather than let institutions control the story and the profit. Now one thing, if an athlete has a project and they're asking for, fans to invest in the project, we should be committed to doing that as quick as we committed to going and buy a ticket to go see them play. Because the ticket to go see them play, that's benefiting an institution that's not trying to build nothing, in your community. So, I'm glad that Angel and Shedeur both have platforms that they own, and that you can assist them by buying off their platform. Like, I don't understand what Shedeur then was thinking. There's no way in the world he shouldn't have had a Shedeur 144 t-shirt ready and they should have been directing their fans, now you buy this. Since they, as a form of resistance, buy the 144 t-shirt, letting these people know that if you had brought me in at 2, then your t-shirts be flying off. But since you bought me in as 144, my t-shirt's gonna be flying off. We have to do little things like that. We don't raise enough hell and support our athletes. you know, and making sure that they're properly protected, because that's the one thing they don't have when they step onto these platforms. They don't have any protection.
Well, I think also too, we don't have conversations around how to raise hell, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the first thing we do is do a march. Look, we've been marching since the 60s. Cut that out. Cut it out. They end in the same damn way. The police car get turned over, some get set on fire, and nothing comes up after that. Cut out the demonstrations. Okay, it's other ways to act out here. You know what I'm saying? Hashtag respect our game. Spend your social media currency wisely. Put the pressure back on these communities. Lil said, what did you say? File
a consumer complaint for that trash that the Sky put on the floor this year, calling it a win now. That was a con.
Y'all know what 5 million letters from each one of Angel supporters, whether it's a letter, you know, we tweet, we instant message, we DM, all that. 5 million letters, 5 million tweets, 5 million, whatever that is, directed at the problem. Do y'all know what kind of pressure, what kind of eyes that puts on things? That shifts. That shifts eyes. That shifts support. Shedeur does have his merch, and so does Bucky. Yeah. They got their merch, but people got to know to go buy their merch. People go to the NFL store and buy number 12, and they think this is the best way to support Shedeur. That's not necessarily the case all the time. So sorry about that, y'all. I had a call come through. Stagnant hourly wage growth plus corporate record sales, strategic K Street investments by corporations, government reps serving corps instead of the people, reduce economic growth as a whole. They call our gathering is called a riot. I said they will call it a riot. But here's the thing: we all show up. We all show up when it's time to get mad. When it's time to get mad, march and everything. And then when it's time to get back and go, put the pressure on your local representatives. It's time to put the pressure on the voting machines. People be too busy. They got stuff to do. We don't, you know what I'm saying? They got, you know, we here to throw the bricks and set the car on fire and all that. We got to be able to follow it all the way through. But part of that is that we don't have no damn leaders out here telling us to do anything. There's no leadership, and there's no real conversations in our community around that. And we could peel back the layers on that. We'll be here all night. And I know y'all got basketball games to get to. And so I'm not going to hold y'all in that conversation. I'm going to get on my soapbox about that. But what's going on, T. Carmella? Not buying season tickets is the best way to send a message. Make these teams work for your support. Yeah, okay. So now then that becomes what? Right? So then you're like, okay, so then I'm not going to buy a season ticket, but how do I make sure that they still got a job? Right? What are we doing here? Right? And we're going to get into a conversation about where the real power is at. Right? There's so many things that we can do, but we have to be strategic in how we make our moves.
A collective too. Can't just be ones and twosies. You know, it's gotta be all of us or none of us.
Minorities, especially Black people, have influence to continue to influence the world by sport, music, education, innovation. The narrative continues to try to devalue minorities as not having substance. Yeah. I mean, but you look around and you can see all of these different things that are, you know, all of these, you know, minorities have contributed in a lot of different areas. So we've got to be strategic, and we've got to be consistent. We got to be consistent in how, you know, we be mad in June and then we forget in November that we mad. You got, when it's time to get to the polls, you got to remember, got to keep that same energy. But and at this point, listen, the reality is pretty clear, right? No system voluntarily gives up power, especially not to no Black athletes whose influence already threatens the structure. That's just not happening. Applause is not advancement. Visibility isn't authority. Endorsements don't equal control. So if success can't be converted into leverage, it's a ceiling, not a breakthrough. So the shift has to be intentional. Stop counting contracts, start tracking influence. Stop counting contracts, start tracking influence. That means moving past brand alignment and into ownership positioning. Past solo wins and into the collective leverage. past the quick payout and into the durable infrastructure. See, being the face of the league is temporary. Shaping how the league operates is permanent. See, power isn't about approval, it's about reach. It's about consequence and the inability to be ignored. That's what we got to get to.
Yeah, but here's the pivot point, y'all. Look, real power begins when athletes stop operating alone. Collective action. I just mentioned that. Independent media and community investment, those are the levers the system fears the most. You know, NIL was a crack in the door, but ownership, equity, and institution building it are how it gets kicked open. So when athletes control their narrative, pool their leverage and invest in structures that outlive their playing years, they stop being assets in someone else's system and start becoming architects of their own. And so that's the line between being profitable and being powerful. And in this century, the 21st century, it's time to get to the power.
Yeah, I mean, and it's power and control. Power and control. Those are the things that we got to be. We got to have our focus on. You got, they say keep your eyes on the prize. Yeah, that's the prize. Power and control. Now, what we did tonight, y'all, because we're going to get to some basketball, because I know Ole Miss was already playing. I'll get some scores on my way out. Let's go ahead and player breakdown. This was a system audit. Angel Reese, Shedeur Sanders, case studies. Real subject is the structure that feeds on Black excellence, monetizes Black culture, and depends on Black fandom while actively limiting Black power. See, we trace the wave and the watch. We named labor extraction. We exposed professional punishment and quiet sabotage. We counted the community costs. We addressed fan accountability. And the conclusion is unavoidable. None of this is random. This is a system that loves Black visibility and resists Black autonomy. Celebration is allowed. Marketability is encouraged. Independence is policed. When athletes are denied leverage, communities absorb the loss. When fans move without intention, our dollars become instruments of extraction. And when institutions aren't pressured, they don't reform, they just rebrand. That's the pattern, and that's the problem. And that's the work still in front of us.
Yep. And at the heart of tonight's conversation is this one truth. Sports are a political economy. Political economy. And Angel Reese and Shedeur Sanders, they show us how influence is generated, monitored, exploited, and disciplined. And that's what we're talking about tonight. So this isn't about individual failure. It's about institutional design. And the path forward requires awareness, coordination, and a shift in how athletes and fans understand power. Because when Black labor creates wealth, Black communities don't gain any leverage, the system wins. And tonight was about naming that reality so that it can no longer hide.
Absolutely. So as we get ready to get out of here, y'all, we hope that this conversation has sharpened your perspective, and don't let it stop there, right? Engagement is leverage. Like it, share it, subscribe it, hype it, comment on it, tell somebody about it, bring 10 the next time you pull up. You got to go. You just got a flat tire. Oh, man, be Will. Hey, man, take care of that, fam. It's a terrible time to get a flat, especially if it's cold where you at. So be safe right there. We can ready to wrap up anyway. But we need y'all to tap in with Respect Our Game advocacy group, respectourgame.online, because supporting women in sports means changing the economics, not just celebrating the highlights. And as we continue to back male athletes navigating the same structures, be intentional with the language and the energy. Use respect, #respect his name, because narrative protection is a form of power. Next up, we revisiting the WNBA CBA and asking the real question: is this league headed toward a temporary holdout or the beginning of a completely new economic model? Yeah, I know sports are never just about the games being played. They're about the stories being told and the systems being exposed. This is Cess, your favorite Auntie Uncle Tendencies and Political Lil. Hey, y'all, stay tuned. Talk soon. Wait, before we out, I told y'all I was gonna give y'all some scores real quick. So Ole Miss is up 66-26 on Mississippi Valley State. Louisville is up 22-19 on EKU. Connecticut and Marquette will be starting in about 25 minutes. We got North Carolina, UNCW. I don't want to make up who it is because I don't know off the top of my head at 8 o'clock. And then Texas also playing at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to be back with a game-cocking episode probably between 8 and 8:30. Y'all pull up and hang out. And then we got the CC show tonight. And we are back, I think, tomorrow with a WNBA CBA conversation. So be on the lookout for those notifications. We appreciate y'all pulling up and rock with us. Y'all can be anywhere. Like, comment, share, and as soon as this thing is over, y'all hype this video. Why? Because they all right there. Until next time, scorers, y'all stay tuned. Talk soon.
We out.
We out.